Today, let's look at two headphones from 1977. The Trio Kenwood, or Kenwood Trio, KH-83 and the KH-33. Both came out in 1977, which is the same year that the Fostex T10 came out, and the same year as the Yamaha HP or YH1000. Let's start with the build, design, and ergonomics. These are among my favorite designs ever in all of headphone history, mostly because of the mechanical features. Let's start with the KH-33. This is a dynamic headphone with 41mm drivers, apparently. We can check that out later. There's no spring mechanism inside the hinge here. They're very loose, which is a bit of a negative point. There is some rotation, however, which is always good to see. And to adjust the headband height, you have to release the tension there. And then you've got a nice spring-loaded clicking sound. And then you tighten it up once it's perfect on your head, so you never have to adjust it again. The KH-83 has planar drivers, exactly the same drivers, as far as I know, as the Fostex T10, which explains why they came out in the same year. However, in a much more open back form. They have a very similar height adjustment mechanism, where you release the tension here, move the rods up and down. And down here there's, I don't know if it's loaded or anything, but it does seem to be spring loaded. A ball and socket mechanism. And I don't know if it's possible to open that, so I won't. And a unique feature that these headphones have is the ability to adjust the angle. So to do that, you turn the compression control one way or the other. So let's go all the way anti-clockwise, and you can see what a difference that makes now. And then let's go all the way clockwise. Yeah, so you can see there's so much customization here, which is great. And it looks absolutely phenomenal. At least in my opinion. You might think it looks stupid. When you consider the amount of machining and effort that went into every part of this, and that it all comes together as a working whole, that's something maybe you can come to appreciate. With printed R and L on the sides. I think that's a genuine leather headband, or at least a very good imitation. It's survived very well through the years. This one's Trio, and this one's Kenwood, but the names are completely interchangeable. As far as I know, they were both available in both brands, looking exactly the same. Let's take a look at the dynamic driver first. Yeah, you don't need to pull the earpads completely off, just move it slightly to the side, and you'll see it's not even attached where the screws are. And there we are, it's opening up. So you can see the back has some paper dust cover there. And the teeny tiny little driver, which is 41mm. Yeah, exactly what they said, 41mm, with an active area of what appears to be approximately 30mm by the looks of things. If I look on the inside of the vents, yeah, it's about 31mm active area. So yeah, that's neat. Let's put that back in. One thing I love about these Kenwood Trio headphones is they always, that I've seen, have really good quality earpads. They've all of them have survived well. So yeah, no peeling at all. A little bit of creasing, maybe a tiny bit of cracking. Same story here. Really good quality pads. Even better than Yamaha's from the same era. Now let's take a look at the Trio KH-83. Same story, just move the pad over at 12 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock, around 4, 5 o'clock there. 3 screws. Okay, so it looks like I modified this one at some point, which is fine. So this is thermolam, definitely. Looks like I covered to the center holes with micropore tape, so that's what you use for plasters and things. As you can see, they do leave a bit of a residue, so not completely recommended. Oh yeah, a bunch of acoustic damping material here. Yeah, those are not stock. And behind, yeah, we've got Arctic cotton. In stock form, there wouldn't have been any damping. It's completely open. There wouldn't have been any yellow mineral wool damping behind, just open back and paper. But I think these are quite dark in the stock form, so the mods that I added help to make it a little brighter, but I might just take them out now because I don't really use mods anymore. I just use tone correction instead, using my Fuzzy Audio SK01. So I'll take these out. Maybe it sounds different. And I'm not a huge fan of these sticky mods because they can leave residues, which, well, for one thing, are difficult to clean up. And secondly, they can leave, if they are oil-based, they can interact badly with the plastic and make it brittle over time. So actually, it's good that I opened this up because I'm not a huge fan of this stuff anymore. Yeah, so this stuff is sorbothane, and I don't use this stuff anymore. It's too much hassle, it's too sticky, and there's just not enough mechanical vibrations for it to even make sense using it. It's just too small of a difference. So anyway, let's try that without damping, see what it sounds like. And of course, while we're here, let's check out the size of the driver. The entire driver is, well, just under 50mm, and the active area is just about 37mm. So not quite 40, but neither a 40mm driver is quite 40 either. Alright, let's give that a new listen.
One eternity later.
Yeah, those old mods, they don't really make a big difference. Only these very, very fine, microscopically fine differences, which you really have to listen back and forth and back and forth and then measure and remeasure, and yeah, it's too much of a pain. It's better to just enjoy them in their closer to stock form as much as possible and put them into either a vintage amplifier with lots of tone controls and equalization, or a modern one like the Fuzzy Audio SK01. You've got the treble, mid-range and bass knobs. You can just twist them as much as you like. And honestly, these have never sounded better. Ignore all the mods. Just putting it through some nice tone control made that sound much better. Unfortunately, they're both, you know, small driver on-ear headphones, so you don't get that big soundstage experience. Sounds, they stay within your head. Starting with the 33, resolution is actually, unfortunately, pretty bad. The tone, it's not great either. You really need to crank up the treble almost all the way up. Bass a tiny bit up, mid-range a tiny bit down. Then it sounds fair, but after listening to this, no one will say, oh yeah, that's a high-end headphone. No, it's an old vintage headphone with a very vintage sound with low resolution, and even after lots of tone correction and it starts to sound relatively normal, it still doesn't sound good. The KH-83, on the other hand, with its Fostex driver inside, sounds fabulous. Even before tone correction, you can tell this is a very dark, smooth-sounding headphone. The resolution is there, it's just not perfect. Then you play with the tone correction, you add a tiny bit of bass, you add a significant chunk of treble, mid-range down a touch. The mid-range on mine is focused around 1000 Hz, in case you're curious. That helps. And then it just sounds like a fairly decently, not super high-end, but you can tell it's a high-end vintage headphone. And, I mean, it was 1/3 of the price of the Yamaha HP1000, but almost double the price of the Fostex T10. Does it sound better than the Fostex T10? Yes, the ear pads are better. They're actually more plush. They're almost fully open back. compared to the T10, which was semi-open. They just made a much better headphone than the T10 using the same internal hardware, the same transducer. Obviously today, the modern price has nothing to do with the historical price. If you do find one of these fairly cheaply, I'd say go for it. It's fun. Is it going to beat something like the Yamaha HP1? No, it's not. From a technical point of view, it's not as good, but if that's not what you're looking for, if you're not looking for technicalities, if you want something smooth and rich, or just something absolutely gorgeous to look at, these are very strongly recommended. I think they're great. In terms of vintage planars, this is absolutely one of the better ones. Something to look out for very serious collectors only. Anyway, that's it for now. I really hope you enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed sharing it. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.